Hello everyone, and as you can see, we've got off to a great start this morning, and that's all thanks to Jamie, who's out on the other vehicle. She found the tracks of these Birmingham male lions, and we moved into the area to give her a hand, and it didn't take us long to bump into them. They are just on the opposite side of the Djuma Dam, where there's a live waterhole camera. And a big thanks to Kevin for all of the updates. Kevin was watching the Djuma waterhole camera last night, and the interesting thing is he heard these lions, but I don't think he could actually see them. So again, thanks for your updates. It doesn't look like they've killed anything, Kevin. It could have been a small buffalo maybe that you heard in distress that they've caught and finished already, but I'm guessing that they actually haven't been successful, although their stomachs are quite full, but no signs of blood around their mouth. And I'm sure if they had made a successful kill, they would have come to have a small drink at the little waterhole where we would have actually been able to see them. So like I say, all 5 of the Birmingham males. My name is Scott, and I'm teamed up with VM on camera, and like I say, Jamie is out on the other vehicle. So let's show you all 5 one by one. You can see 4 in the current frame, 3 are easy to see, 1's further away. Then just down to our left here, there's another individual. This one is known as Scrapper. He's got very distinctive eyes that are quite menacing. And then the 5th male, who's the furthest one away from these 4, is in some thick bush over there, and if you look closely you'll notice that there is also another lion lying just next to him. It's a lioness though. We're not sure who she is, we haven't had a close look at her yet, but interesting stuff that one lady is trailing them, possibly mating. I'm just going to update Taxon on the radio quickly. He's just, oh no, Jamie's going to do that for me. We've got some more interesting updates that have come through from Karin, Ravi and John, and it's going to help us piece together the puzzle of what may have happened with these lions last night. And all 3 of those people mentioned that they heard buffalo that sounded like they were in distress, that they were running. And interestingly enough, just before we got here, I didn't mention to VM that it looked like a herd of buffalo had moved past that little waterhole, but in the general area there was a lot of churned up earth where their hooves would have been moving at high speed. So maybe these lions did have an attempt at trying to catch a buffalo, but were unsuccessful, as predators most often are. It's the prey that are more successful at escaping. But these 5 boys certainly do know how to bring down buffalo. But even still, with all their size and strength, it's not an easy task. Now, I'm not too sure exactly where these lions were yesterday, so I have no idea how far they may have travelled over the course of the night, but Jamie did find their tracks on the kind of north and western portion of Djuma, so maybe they came in from Buffels Hook, our northern neighbour. And I stand to be corrected, but I think it's been close on 2 weeks, possibly even a bit longer than that, since these 5 males have been back to Djuma. So I think the whole time that I was on leave they've been elsewhere. So aren't we lucky that they've come back? And it's important that they do come back, because they are in the process of establishing this area as their core territory. Not just Djuma, but Djuma and surroundings. But because they've been quite successful, in quite a short space of time. I don't think they've strategized and been able to plan how they're going to patrol this large territory of theirs. And for them to have not been back onto the property here for 2 weeks is an example of that. Possibly kind of lack of experience being landowners. Their property will need upkeep and maintenance, and that's all relating to patrolling and making sure that no other males are infiltrating, as if they do, they may run the risk of their cubs being killed. Not that they have any cubs yet, but in the coming months I'm sure they will have a few. Now if some buffalo come down now, we will get some action. But for now they're looking quite sleepy. Oh, you see, just as I said that, something's got their attention. What is it? They've possibly heard something. I'm guessing that's what it is for. These toots have picked up their heads so quickly. Look at how beautiful they are in this morning sunlight. But obviously nothing too serious. And I've just heard a vehicle, so maybe it was the low rumbling engine of the vehicle that kind of took them by surprise. They may have thought it was a grumbling roar of another lion. So even the animals make mistakes. It'll be a very common sound for them, the audio of a vehicle, which they've become very used to and shouldn't be scared of. But they made a little mistake there. So as we see them lying here quite sleepily, I'm sure a lot of you may wonder what they get up to after dark, how different their behavior may be. Well, I know certainly Jeff in Florida would like to know how their behavior will alter or change from day to night. And a lot depends on the time of year, Jeff, as well as the pride of lions. And we've just got another vehicle joining us here, and they've got some Wild Earth viewers on the vehicle. So isn't it wonderful? I think I'm just going to ask VM to pan across and show you Taxon with some Wild Earth viewers that have come out all the way here on safari to see the Birmingham males, and haven't they got lucky? They've had a wonderful trip so far. And that's Terry and Carol on the back, and Liz and Tom on the front, and Taxon and Fanwell taking them on an adventure. Wonderful. Sorry, Jeff, back to your question. Their behavior will generally be more active at night, and that's across Africa. They have the ability to be more successful, or potentially more successful, at hunting at night time, with the cover of darkness aiding them. And it's also generally cooler. So in all the areas I've worked, lions have definitely done the majority of their movement at night time and the majority of sleeping during the day. Cubs will also kind of just fit in with the rest of the pride. They'll start moving with the pride from about 3 months of age, so, and even younger than that. But they will also be kind of on the same wavelength as their parents. It's a good question, Jeff, because we don't spend much time out at night, so it's difficult to know exactly what goes on. But hopefully in the future we will be afforded to, with the right technology, to go out more at night time and get a better insight as to what they do, because so much of our time that we spend with them is while they're asleep. And I think our odds would be a little bit better if we were out at night. Oh, I've heard something again. Interesting stuff. But, again, possibly a false alarm. So a lot of the questions this morning are coming through from Florida. The next one's from Mike. And thank you for the belated birthday wishes. And I hope all is well over in Florida. And I think it's this individual here, Mike, that you are thinking about, who Mike was lucky enough to be tuned in when these 5 males caught a young buffalo this time last year. And you're right, Mike, Tom certainly does fly. And it was the blonde male who could be this one, or it could be the one over with the female who's kind of changed a little bit in shape and form since this time last year. But one of them was certainly dominant and trying to keep the herd of buffalo at bay that were running in to try and save their herd member. They were unable to do so, so I think it was this individual here, Mike. I'm not sure what you think. His mane's not as blonde as it used to be, but he's the biggest of them, and that's why he's the one lying next to the lady. He's just off to his left, if some of you may have just joined the show. Hard for us to see her, but we will reposition a little bit later and give you guys an opportunity to try and work out who this lioness could be. And thanks for all the support coming from Florida this morning. Now it's Liz in Florida who wants to see that 5th male, which we've just given you a glimpse of, but like I said, we will reposition. And we'll maybe just give Taxon a few moments over there. He's on that side of the sighting now. And then we'll move across a little bit later. What a great start. And again, big thanks to Jamie, who was out, found their tracks, said they were heading in this direction. We were at a road junction about 100 meters away from us, actually. And I was initially planning on turning right when I got to the T-junction. And just before I got there, Jamie said, well, I found these tracks. They're heading in this direction. So I thought I'd check Mvubu Road. And after driving 50 meters, we came straight across these lines. So we got incredibly fortunate. But the interesting thing here is that had we have turned right and had have Jamie not found those tracks, we would have carried off in search of the wild dog, which were kind of left in our northeastern corner of Djuma last night. And those were our initial plans that changed quite abruptly. And I'm glad that our tracking, well, lack of tracking, actually, it was simply luck, was paid off, because VM spotted them within a few minutes of Jamie's report. I am quite tempted to still go searching for those wild dog, but there's a lot more time this morning, and we may head off and do that a little bit later. I still have not seen this pack of 3 adults and 11 pups, so looking forward to changing that. Well, I'm sure a lot of you are quite envious of the Djuma junkies, the Wild Earth viewers who have come out here on safari. I know B. Wilson certainly is expressing their jealousy, but also happiness for them to be out here. And you're right, it's a huge privilege to come out here and be on safari, and I hope many more of you will also be able to get here at some stage. If not, though, we'll continue doing our best to take you out on safari daily. There's huge benefits to not actually being here and being wherever you are in the world watching the safari, you get to see often twice as much as any of the presenters do, because the cameras are taking you to wherever the action is. And like I've just said, I've not even seen this pack of wild dog that a lot of you would have spent quite a lot of time with by now, but I'm out here daily and not seeing that. So there are benefits to being at home. I guess it's similar to the benefits of watching a sports event at home as opposed to being at the stadium. You get to see the highlights and all the good shots and all the good angles. Now, there was another request from Julia asking for any help on whether or not I would be able to help identify a bird call that's early in the morning, a long high-pitched call, and I'm not too sure what it could be. I'm going to ask VM to maybe zoom out a little bit and show you the wonderful angle that these guys have of the lions. Look at that, maybe that's a screenshot for the Djuma Junkies page right there. It's a pity the lions don't have their head up, but isn't it wonderful that those two big males are right in the foreground there. So just to recap, for those of you who may have just joined the show, it's great that the 5 male lions that we're looking at now are back on Djuma. It's been a while since they've been here, and they've been elsewhere, all around us really, and it's important that they continue to manage and patrol their territory, but they could well keep extending the size of their territory so that it becomes almost impossible for them to monitor it successfully or effectively if all 5 of them stick together. And that's going to be relevant when answering Michael's question. He's interested to know if these 5 will stay together for the future years or if there's a chance that they will split up. And depending on how successful they are, Mike, there is a strong chance they will split up. Not permanently, but they'll kind of move into little groups, either of 2 or 3, not necessarily fixed, that may change as time goes, and there's no set pair that will necessarily be together or set trio that will be together, that they will band up when necessary, but by being in 2 different groups, they'll be able to more effectively cover territories, and that way patrol and make sure that there's no intruders. So in all my experience in history, big coalitions of 5 or 6 males will be seen together a lot of the time as they establish their territory. Once they are established, they'll move into kind of groups of 2 and 3. But if the need rises, there's a fight nearby, there's other males coming in, they can call their coalition members from nearby, and they'll band up as all 5 or 6 again and get rid of any harm, and then split up, and that way more effectively patrol. So that's usually how it works. Also, if there's a buffalo kill, for example, we're going to send you across to Jamie quickly. She's got something interesting. You'll be back with us shortly.
And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the Sunrise Safari on this rather chilly start to the day. And it seems as though the dwarf mongoose agree with me. They are all sitting on the eastern side of the termite mound. Very, very chilly. Let's just have a look at this amazing dwarf mongoose. I have never seen anything like this before. And as far as I can tell, I don't think this one is covered in ash or anything like that. It's some kind of color variation, I think. It looks, I don't know, it almost looks like it's got face paint on, Halloween face paint. that hasn't washed off. Its face is almost completely white. If it would very kindly turn around, which I don't think it's going to do just yet. That's incredible to see. I've never ever seen that before. I'm going to have to go and do some research into color variation on dwarf mongoose, especially isolated to one patch of fur around the face. It is so interesting. Oh, big yawn. Somebody was very sleepy. And that little one who just turned around and started climbing there has a couple of bite marks around its skin. Maybe got into an altercation with possibly one of the other mongoose. It could also have been a predator. And lucky escape. There it is. You can see the two wounds on the side. Nothing too serious. And this is a very busy termite mound. Perfect spot for sitting in the sun, which I completely sympathize with because I think I'm a little bit hypothermic. I keep underestimating how cold it is for midsummer. Oh, a little bit of grooming happening between them. As I said, just chatting a little bit earlier, there's the one with the injuries that I was speaking about. Definitely 2 puncture wounds. I'm not sure where that's from, whether it's from a fight with mongoose or possibly even a lucky escape from a bird of prey. Just looking at those puncture wounds. And dwarf mongoose, despite their small size, are not without their own defensive strategies. They've got teeth and claws and loose skin, and they're definitely going to fight back if threatened. It could be that this one had a lucky escape. Let's go back to that one because he's turned around. Look at that. I'm trying to look through. Wow. Don't you think it looks like he's wearing Halloween face paint? It is definitely his fur. He's not... It's not anything else. It's not a skin disease or anything like that. He just has white fur. Please take lots of screen grabs, everybody, and send them through to me on my, not only on #SafariLive, but also my Twitter account, because I really want to have a look and see what this is. If it's some kind of leucistic gene, so that slightly pale gene. One thought that did occur to me was that something gave him a little bit of a fright, but I can't see anything. It's definitely not us. Christy, you were wondering whether or not they go grey with age, and that might be the case. I have never heard of it, and I certainly have never seen it. You might get a patch of grey around the muzzle or something, in the way that your pet dogs or cats might do, especially dogs. But to have an entirely white face, I don't know, that's a new one for me. I'm going to have to go look it up. We know that there, of course, are lots of animals out here with colour variations, and there's leucism, as well as albinism and melanism, all different genetic variations. It really looks like a Halloween character. Eddie Abbey, you were saying you hope it's not mange. It's definitely not. It's not bald skin. Looking through my binoculars, that is white fur. And I'm not sure whether it's because of the colour of the fur. No, it definitely doesn't have red eyes. That is so interesting. I don't know what it is, honestly. It's some kind of colour variation, but it is a mystery to me. as to what that really has been caused by. I just know it's probably the most interesting little dwarf mongoose I've ever seen. Look how clearly that one stands out. You can see why white is such an interesting color out here. If we're sitting looking at them as a whole, as we are now, your eye immediately goes to that little white patch. I wonder what kind of... I mean, that's a full-grown dwarf mongoose. It hasn't disadvantaged it in any way. Donovan? Maybe we do have the beginnings of the white-faced mongoose new species. The other mongoose don't seem to mind. An important lesson in tolerance. Wow. And then that brown strip down the middle. Perfectly symmetrical. Well, this has definitely been one of the most interesting sightings that I have seen. But I know that Scott has repositioned and he has found the female. I think it's time for us to head across to him. And I will catch up with you a little bit later. Never fear, I'm going to go and investigate the lions that were seen on the Arathusa Dam camera, and I will be back with you in just a while.
You'll notice we've repositioned the vehicle and have got a much better view of this lioness for you. And at the perfect time, she's lifted up her head so you can get to have a good look at her. Feel free to let us know who you think she may be, which pride she may be from. Probably the Styx pride or Nkuhuma pride, or who knows, possibly even a member of the Solala pride. But with all the chaos and confusion regarding lions and their territories at the moment, I'm not going to hazard a guess. But if any of you have managed to get to know the lioness well, feel free to voice your thoughts, but we might need to get you a few better views than the brief one you've just had. Then the largest of the 5 Birmingham males is lying off just to her right. Interestingly, she got up and moved just a few meters to reposition, and as soon as she got up, he was up and on her tail. He wasn't taking any chances with the 4 other males nearby. They will compete with one another for rights over lioness. Not necessarily every single time a lioness comes into the equation will there be a fight, but every couple of months possibly one male may think, well, you know what, you were big a few months ago, but now I'm willing to challenge you. And you'll notice I've got myself into, I like hiding, being in a point of ambush when watching the lion, so that I feel like I'm one of them. In case some buffalo come down, we'll be in a position where we're ready to pounce. I'm only kidding, this was just to get a good view of the lioness. And I was also telling the viewers on the other vehicle that I promise I'm not hiding from them, because it appears like we are in hiding mode here. But like I was saying, the males will compete with one another for ladies. And one thing we were chatting about earlier is how coalitions of males may split up, and one reason why some of the lesser males may enjoy splitting up is that it increases the second in charge's likelihood of mating. And if by luck the most dominant male in this pride isn't around when there is a mating opportunity, he will still certainly tolerate the cubs of his fellow coalition members. Whereas they certainly will not tolerate cubs side by males of another coalition. And on the topic of these males and the intricacies between them, Sandy would like to know if these are all brothers and how old they are. Now, I'm not entirely sure exactly how old each individual is, but it appears like one is older, and I'm guessing he's maybe just over 5 years of age, and this is him on the right here. Then 3 that look to be the same age, so those could well all be brothers from the same litter. And then 1 that's slightly smaller, who could be a cousin. So it's an older cousin, 3 brothers and a younger cousin, as far as I'm aware. But they all would have been from the same natal pride. So they were all born and raised together, but at slightly different periods possibly. And usually that's how coalitions are created. They are created by luck, and it's brothers and cousins that can band together when it's time for them to leave home. It's not the only way that it works though. You will find scenarios like young Junior in the Nkuhuma Pride, 1 young male. He's unfortunate in that he doesn't have any brothers or cousins that he can head off with, so he'll head off on his own. And he'll be in a situation where he may need to join up with other males, possibly youngsters, or possibly even an old male will accept him into his territory. But there's no fixed plan or path for any young male lion, so it'll be interesting to see what does happen in his future. These guys are lucky. It's not normal to see 5 together. Not normal, but they are very lucky to be all together. What was she doing there? I couldn't quite work it out whether she was trying to look up into the sky at a vulture or just stretching and getting comfortable, which is kind of wobbling her head around there. Now, I'm not sure what you guys think, but at the moment there is not too much going on here, and I'm thinking this afternoon and this evening is going to be the time that we should invest with these animals, and for now we could possibly go and look for something else. Now, there's no guarantees that a herd of buffalo doesn't arrive here in the next 10 minutes and an almighty battle ensues, so it would be a gamble to go elsewhere, but I think one that kind of makes sense. But send us through your thoughts on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. If you are joining for the first time, this is a great way for you to get involved. It is an interactive safari, as you would have worked out, answering questions from lots of people all around the world, and it's good if you guys want to jump on board as well. VM's just spotted the lioness. She's got her head up, so we'll take this opportunity to try and get you some more views of her. So we've got a few comments through, one from Janet saying this could possibly be the missing lioness from the Salala Pride. And you're right, Janet, there is one lioness missing from that pride of 5 who were last seen across on Arathusa. So that's a possibility. There also is another comment through from Blair saying that one of the Styx lioness has been spending a lot of time with the Birmingham males, apparently. So thanks, Blair, helping narrow down the options as to who this could be. I wonder why she is hanging out with him. That's another question I guess a lot of you are asking. He doesn't appear to be moving effectively. Anyway, Jamie's got some exciting news and we're going to send you straight across there. Enjoy.
Exciting news indeed. Look who we have here. I need her to look at me. I think it's Shadow. We are on Arathusa after all. This hasn't been unknown for Karula to come wandering through, but I think that's, yes, that looks like Shadow to me. I'm sure you guys agree. Just in profile, she has a slightly flatter nose than some of the other leopards. Okay, let's see if we can sneak forward and get a good view. It's very, very thick in this block, but what an exciting moment. Tebs and I were just talking this morning about finding a leopard, and there we go. We've got her. She's just enjoying the rays of the morning sun as well. Actually, if I go forward, I think I might send her walking off again, because the only way to go to reposition is to actually move straight towards her. And of course, as many of you know, hello girl, that's definitely Shadow. Many of our regular viewers will know that approaching an animal directly generally disturbs them slightly. And you've got to approach them at a sort of oblique angle, rather move next to them rather than directly at them. So we'll let her settle for the moment. I don't know what she's up to. She could well be hunting. It's the perfect time of morning. Ah, hello girl, I have not seen you in months. What a special surprise. For those of you who are a little bit more unfamiliar with the leopards that we see regularly, this is Shadow, a 9-year-old female and daughter of our special Karula. She's quite often seen around the Arathusa area. And I think now that her mother has finished mating with Tingana, who, by the way, she also sometimes mates with, she's moved back into her regular territory. She's actually quite sleepy. Her head's just drooping in the morning sun. Now, we've got this amazing spot, but I do need to share it with the other guides because I know that they're looking for leopards this morning, so please bear with me for one moment while I let them know. Our morning station, I've got visual of Shadow in the block south of Zebra Drive, I think between the junction of Shortcut Ntandaluka and Eli Alley. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Perfectly captured in the morning sun. You can see every now and again she looks up and then her head droops, almost like she's having a cat nap. Now, Terry, you were saying that it's wonderful to see a leopard on Safari Live, and we just wanted to know how many leopards we see or might see in the Djuma and Arathusa area, and of course, barring the odd animal that might come in unexpectedly, we have Shadow and Kwetile in this area as the females, and Karula around Djuma, so that's 3 of them. Tingana and Mvula, the two big males, as well as the Anderson male every now and again. Kunuma in quarantine, Karula's adult sons sometimes pop their noses in. And who else have we got? Did I count Kwetile? Yes, I counted Kwetile. That's around 8 leopards that we regularly see, although quarantine and Kunuma, I would say, we're less likely to spot. They've been establishing territories just outside of our area. But definitely one of our special leopards, this shadow. I know that all of you, and myself in particular, have a soft spot for her. It's good to see her looking happy and healthy and fairly well fed as well. Mike, along with many others, have suggested that maybe she looks a bit sad. Personally, I think she looks a bit sleepy. And I understand her completely, because I almost share that feeling on a chilly morning like this, to sit in the sun and just bask a little bit. Quite an enjoyable process. And I think if I were able to loop around her, which I can't do at the moment, you would see that her eyelids are drooping. She is, from my angle, which is difficult to show you from because I'm slightly lower than Tebs, but she's just sleeping. Now, I mentioned that she looks happy and healthy, but Angel Lady, you were wondering if she looks pregnant. No, I don't think so. It would be a bit early for us to tell, which sort of brings me into Mo's question as to when we can expect to see cubs coming from Shadow. She was mating with Tingana. Bear with me one moment. She was mating with Tingana just before Karula was, which has led to many comments about poor old Tingana's the fact that he is under attack from all of the lady leopards in this area. Now, the gestation period is about 3 months if the mating was successful, which isn't always the case. And her last two have not been, or her last one was definitely not successful because she mated a second time with Tingana. So we're looking at another 2.5 to 3 months before we really start to see signs. It's between 100 to 105 days gestation period. And again, that just depends on whether or not that mating was successful, especially given the fact that Tingana has had to mate with so many other leopards recently. She's settled down, she is lying down. I think she's decided this is a good spot to have a quick nap. Cat napping. And leopards do this. They move through the bushes, stop and have a quick rest, sleep for a while. I still think she might be, they are opportunistic, so she might have been looking for something to hunt in this area. She definitely looks well fed though. That round belly comes from food, not from babies in this case. And as soon as a female leopard is pregnant, then she will stop mating with the males of the area, obviously, because she won't go into estrus. So if we see her mating again, then we know that she wasn't pregnant and that this session was not successful. Well, I really want to be able to reposition to get you a nice view of beautiful Shadow. While I do that, let's head across to Scott and his lions for a last few minutes with them, and I will be back with you later.
So this male's just flopped down. He's the big individual. We're still with him and the lioness. And well done to Jamie for getting you guys a great view of shadow. Incredibly lucky we all are this morning. Big cats all over, which is wonderful, because there have been a few dry spells over the last couple of weeks and days. As we look at this lioness, we're not sure which pride she's from, but Barbara in Texas would like to know what does her future hold? What is one lone lioness doing with these 5 males? And you'll probably find she's either seeking security with them, so she may have lost other members of her pride. I mean, that's one possibility. The other possibility is that she knows that she needs to forge a relationship with these males. So by spending time with them, kind of winning them over, it'll increase the other lioness and even possibly young males within her pride's chances of survival. Those are 2 variables. The other third one is that she's simply coming into season. These are her best possible options at the moment in terms of males to mate with, and she's getting ready to do that. So she's not necessarily a lone lioness, she's merely alone at the moment, and may well join back with her pride when the time needs be. Great to hear from another viewer who did come out and visit here in the Sabi Sands earlier in the year, and that's Brian from Philadelphia. Thanks for sending through a question, Brian. And he's asked a good one, still on the topic of mating amongst lions, and he's asked, will a lioness separate herself from the pride when it's time to mate, and possibly even follow males out of her core territory into the territory of another lioness? And yes, that certainly is possible. It's not something that I've ever seen or seen as much as I have seen with leopards. We've been really lucky with learning that trait about them. We've seen leopardess who travel way out of their territories in order to mate with males, and it could well be very similar with lions, but I haven't personally seen it very recently in this area. But most lioness, I guess, will possibly need to take that risk in order to mate with the best possible male, and they will also know that by traveling with 5 big males, even if it is out of their core territory into another lioness or another pride of lioness's territory, the protection that these 5 males will offer them will probably be what causes them to feel safe in doing so. So good question, Brian, and good to know you're watching. I hope all is well in Philadelphia, and let us know when you're planning your next trip out to visit. The other lions, I'm just going to creep forward a bit, so just up ahead, so we'll have one last look at them quickly. There's one you can see there. I'm just going to drive ever so slightly into a little gap here, where we'll be able to see, I think, all 4 of them. Yeah, kind of. Won't be the best view of all 4, but they are all out here. So for those of you who have joined recently, we're going to give you one quick glimpse of them before heading off. I want to try and make it up to Buffelshoek Dam to see if we can't find any sign of the wild dog that were running around there yesterday. So there's 3. I wonder what he's dreaming about. Absolutely awesome. Fairly full-bellied. I mean, they're not starving, but they're not stuffed as lion can often be after gorging themselves on large prey. But good prospects for this evening. And Sherry and Ahaya did mention that their bellies did look full. So you're right, Sherry, but like I said, you probably agree they are not bulging as they sometimes can be after feeding on a very large kill. And Eddie Abby's noticed these hairy tufts off the elbows or the armpits of these lion, and you'll probably find that they're going to get even bigger. One of the Matimba males had exceptionally large tufts of hair growing off his armpits and even under the belly. I got a question through earlier from Lynn, and she was trying to kind of work out how do these lions one day fight with one pride and the other day be mating with a member from that pride, and that's Lynn in Michigan. And it's a good question, and I guess the best way to think of it is that if you are thrown onto an island with a whole bunch of humans that you don't know, there may initially be some arguments and kind of peacocking. Everyone's trying to work out who's who and establish dominance. But after time and after a few little skirmishes, you'll probably realize that everyone's not so bad, and you work out your differences and then start moving on. And it's the same with the lions. You know, these lioness are going to be resistant to 5 males that only... Okay, we're going to send you across to Shadowland. Sorry to cut your question short, but I will continue answering it whilst searching for the wild dogs. See you later.
As you can see, we've... Oh, exhausted cat. I was about to say, as you can see, we've managed to loop our way around and get a slightly clearer position as to where Shadow is, without, of course, sitting in the way of her son. Now, she sat up just a few seconds ago. She was looking off intently into the bush. Oh, another big yawn. But she's relaxed again. I don't know what it was. I don't know if she heard something moving through. She did look like she was about to, get up and start moving. Usually when cats yawn like that, it's a sign that they're about to move. Okay, bear with me a moment. We're going to have to reposition, and I can't do that when she's right behind the car. Okay, let's stay with her. Which way is she going? The other thing about leopards is that they don't always direction. I think she might be heading back to the road. No, she's going to stay here. We have to do a loop around. It's too thick for us to push through that way. Oh. Sorry, Debs. Get her. Sure, thick in here. The road. It's not really what I wanted to find though. I wanted to find a leopard. Where did she go? This is too thick. Go that way. It's like doing a maze and trying to spot a cat at the same time. Where is she gone? It's too thick here. another loop. At least we managed to spend a bit of quality time with her though. Mad off-roading here. And while I do that, I saw that dwarf mongoose earlier with that interesting color variation. It's something that we see in guys, I know that it sometimes looks a bit serious when we drive over trees like that, but we pick the species that are young and can spring back. They'll be absolutely fine. Just looks a little bit hectic, but they will be back up. They spring up behind us. Where did you go, lady? It's more the risk of a flat tire than anything else. Now, we saw that dwarf mongoose with that incredible facial coloration. And Kelly, who's watching in Wisconsin, you wanted to know if I've ever seen a leopard with that color variation. Sorry, Gilly, you were wondering if I've ever seen a leopard with any kind of color variation like that strawberry leopard that Tara's been working with and has captured on camera traps before. And the answer is no, I haven't. It's definitely on my list of things to see. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if I can find her again. Where did she disappear to? Last time I saw her, she was just in here, moving in that direction. I think what we should do, whilst I try and find her again, and I think she might be heading to her favorite drainage line system, let's head back across to Scott for now, and I can focus on the search for Shadow. Be back with you later.
So, some excitement over there with Shadow and Jamie and all of you, and let's hope that Jamie has some luck relocating her. It's always tricky business in the thick bush, finding one of the planet's most elusive animal. And sorry, Lynn, all the way in Michigan, but we did have to rush you over there to Jamie a bit earlier. There was some potential action unfolding, and we were discussing lion dynamics and how it's interesting that males will one day fight with a pride of lioness and the next day be mating with them. But that's only in the initial stages, I guess, Lynn, once they're feeling one another out and getting to know one another. And it's the same with males who, like Junior, who may get kicked out of his pride shortly, or should technically already be gone. If he comes across another male lion for the first time, a big dominant male, they are going to have an altercation, not necessarily to the death, but they will work one another out, feel one another out in a fight. Then afterwards they may lie down next to one another, looking at each other and sizing one another up, and realize that, well, this actually could work out, and they then become coalition members. That's how it does sometimes happen, and I guess it's the same with the males and the lioness. Strange behavior, but kind of understandable to a degree. always different, and that's the tricky thing with all these scenarios. There's never going to be a set formula that plays out in nature. There are going to be general trends, most certainly, but every scenario and every relationship between males and females of both lions, leopards, all the different animals will always be different. And I guess we can look at ourselves to realize that many humans have got different traits and personalities, and that therefore has effects on relationships. Difficult for us to always know exactly what's going on. Speaking of lions getting to know one another, the Birmingham boys apparently did come across the Salala pride of 5, which is 2 lioness and 3 young males. But I haven't heard anything further about that. I know Ellie Abbey and Bedros are interested to know if there are any updates on the Salala pride after this interaction with the Birmingham boys, and sadly haven't heard anything or seen anything. I'm guessing that they were just the guides in that area. I think it happened on Arathusa. We're just looking at the tracks, and the tracks indicated that there was some kind of a skirmish altercation, but up till now I haven't seen or heard any reports. Maybe Jamie knows something. But hopefully those 3 young males from the Salala pride are still in one piece. They're not in a fortunate position at the moment. At their age, for them to be in this area with these 5 males, the 5 Birmingham boys, it's not looking pretty for them. And they've already been fleeing from the 2 Matimba males that fled initially from the Birmingham boys. So the Salala pride just don't seem to know where to go, or aren't picking the right spots. I'm just going to actually rethink my route and go onto Cheetah Cut Line. I was going to take this road up towards Buffalo's Hook Dam, but I think it'll be better for us to start with a wide search for the wild dogs. And the reason for that is that they can cover such huge distances in such short spaces of time with incredible stamina. So what we're going to do is do a big loop all the way around Cheetah Cut Line and then back up towards the Buffalo's Hook Dam. Chatting about the Salala pride now and the 3 young males. There's also 1 young lioness as well as 1 big old lioness, and that older lioness is missing her tail, as was her mother, an older lioness that I used to view about 5 or 6 years ago in the southern Sabi Sands. And I probably also viewed the current individual. She would have been a youngster back then, who's also missing her tail. So interesting stuff there. And Vicky would like to know if I've ever seen a tailless male lion, and no, I haven't. The only 2 tailless lioness I've seen have actually been the 2 tailless lioness of the Salala pride, the one we're viewing now and one I viewed many years ago. But I've no doubt that there have been 1 or 2 tailless males running around, either lost by fighting with other lions, or like the Salala lioness, they lost theirs to hyena. Just got a question through from Ramey, one of our seasoned safari goers. Reme's all the way in San Diego. And Reme has asked a question that I do not know the exact answer to. I've got a feeling that I do, but we're going to have to double check this. So if any of you know anything on the topic of lions and mange, please let us know the finer details, but I'm almost certain lions will get mange, Reme, but I've never actually seen one in that case. But like most animals, and I know with captive animals, I'm certain it happens. Captive wild big cats that are not looked after well could get mange, but I'm not sure if that's a result of them being in captivity. Jamie's just heard some crackles over the radio waves that there could be wild dog on Sibambili, which is a kind of strange little property. It's not strange at all, let me reiterate that. It's a kind of thin section between the northern fence and Arathusa. So they could possibly pop out onto Arathusa if in fact there are wild dogs. Jamie did emphasize that the message was a crackly one. But whether that's the same pack of wild dogs that was seen yesterday afternoon by Jamie and James, or it's a different one, I'm not too sure. I'm too far away to try and contact those guides. We're kind of just about to hit our eastern boundary, and Sibambili is off to our west. So we'll just keep that in mind. Just seeing some tracks here. They are wild dog tracks, but I think they're from yesterday. There's also a lot of hyena tracks here. And I'm just going to try and find some wild dog tracks that are nice to show you guys. But it's not going to be easy. What's nice though about the tracks here is that there's also some hyena tracks in the area, but it's all a little bit confusing. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out. So this tiny little track there on the end of my finger is a wild dog track, which does look similar to hyena, but it's not as large. But I need one right next to it, and the sun's already getting a little bit high to show you tracks clearly. But I think these are from where the pack were moving last night, not necessarily from today, so we'll continue. Reminder for those of you who weren't on the sunset safari yesterday, we are going to be changing times for the safaris, and we're going to be heading out half an hour earlier in the morning as of tomorrow, and that's in order to make the most of the early morning sunlight and to be out before it gets too hot, when most of the animals will start becoming sleepy. So 5 o'clock start Central Africa time, and we're not going to be changing the time of the sunset safari. That's still working quite well for us, so that's still going to be 4 p.m. Central Africa time until 7 p.m. and the morning is just going to be half an hour earlier, like I say, from 5 a.m. until 8 a.m. to Sandra, and thanks for sending through your thoughts. Sandra's mentioned that you can't help but wonder how many animals we must be driving past that we don't see in this thick bush. And you're right, Sandra, it would be a horrifying statistic if we knew how many lions, leopards, or any animals of interest we drove past on a daily basis. And especially on the quieter drives, we often wonder to ourselves, I wonder where, at least, if you know, how close was it to us, or how close were we to the animal. But thankfully, our cameramen have got such good eyes that they are often the ones who help us, like right this second. VM helped spot this kudu, which is some quite thick vegetation. I'll see if I can reverse it a little bit, give us a moment or two. Oh, there's also an impala or three back there. We might get a little gap, although it's on the move. No, she's dodging us. But well spotted, VM. And again, it kind of emphasizes Sandra's point that it's difficult to see everything out here, especially in this thick bush. Well done, VM. Thanks to Georgianne, Lisa, and Pretty Nightmare. VM, try and go for it, bud. Oh no. So, what was happening, or what still is happening, is that a lilac-breasted roller was doing its display, its rolling display. You would have heard that loud squawking, quack, 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 quack. And that's what they do as they're building up kind of steam. And what they generally do is they ascend in circles and then do this rolling. They do a combination of rolls. They do a dipping kind of roller coaster loop roll from altitude, and then once they get a little bit low, then they roll from side to side. And there's only one way to try and show that to you, and that's to go for those moments like that. But the roller disappeared behind the tree line before we could show you the bird even. Anyway, worth the gamble. Anyway, big thanks to Georgianne and Lisa and Pretty Nightmare for sending through reports that lions will in fact get mange, which I thought was the case. I don't know too much about it though. And there were also some updates of potentially the Arathusa Pride's cubs having mange. So I haven't heard anything about that. But I guess it does happen from time to time. I'm hoping the Birmingham males are going to be successful hunting this evening, and that way maybe if they take down something large like a buffalo, it'll provide us with some great entertainment. However, if we're not there to see it, what it'll mean is that they should be on the property at least for 24 hours as they begin to try and consume and finish off this buffalo. Now, that lioness would certainly aid in hunting if they were on the hunt tonight, so she would help them. And even she would maybe take down a small kill like an impala and be the breadwinner for those 5 males. But it all depends on the size of the prey that these lions manage to bring down, and that will determine how much each of them get to feed on. because Laurie in Wisconsin's interested to know, will that lioness get any food while she's with those 5 males? Because on a carcass, lions will compete ferociously with one another for rights to feeding. But there's so many variables, Laurie. Like I said, if she takes down an impala, they will take it away from her, all 5 of them. But then amongst the 5 of them, probably only 1 or 2 of them will get the majority of that impala. Maybe even 1 will get the whole thing. Whereas if it's a buffalo kill, there will certainly be space for all of them, and she'll get more than enough food. So depending on the size of the kill will determine how much food she gets. But if they take down a buffalo, which is their kind of usual prey, there'll definitely be a spot, maybe not at the head of the table, but certainly somewhere for her to have a snack. And this is the animal that they could well be snacking on. Somewhere in there you'll see a dark shape of a Cape buffalo. And what we're going to do is just work out which direction they're moving in and then try and get you a closer view. I don't think you can see anything at this stage. You reposition ever so slightly. Looks like a few big old bachelor bulls, so I don't think it's a large herd, but maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. Well, 3 of the big 5 this morning, not bad going in terms of the high profile animals. And who knows, maybe we'll be able to find you an elephant before the end of the safari. And that way we would have showed you as many of the big 5 as we are possibly allowed to. The only one that we cannot show you is the rhino. And the reason why we don't show the rhinos because we don't want to be involved in any way helping poachers gain knowledge as to where they are moving, as it is a critical condition, the state of rhino poaching in South Africa, and we don't want to be involved in any way. So just buffalo bulls, it looks like, for now. There's a herd of about 30 or 40 of them kind of bands together, quite a large breeding herd, or sorry, bachelor herd. I'm guessing this could be them. Jamie's still trying her best to relocate on Shadow, but hasn't had any luck yet. But she is still in that area, and like I said earlier, there's some incredibly tricky parts of this reserve to follow animals through, especially leopard, who are so small and can change direction and change course so quickly that there's not much you can do to stay with them. Oh. He reversed out of frame perfectly as VM got ready for the reveal. Okay, well, this is not the most picturesque sighting, so I think we should carry on and set our sights for something else. It's a bit thick in here and we're never going to get sustainably good shots, so just a little glimpse of the Cape Buffalo. There's not many vehicles driving around today, so I haven't heard many updates on the radio. It sounds like there's nobody on Buffalo's Hook. It was just Texan that was out. Jamie's gone across to Arathusa, and that's the sum total of everyone driving around the properties that we can traverse here. You'll tend to find the busier the lodges are, or surrounding camps are, the more sightings are, which makes perfect sense. There's just more people searching, more people getting lucky. But there is a great sense of freedom when there isn't anyone around, and also that kind of exciting feeling that you know there's many areas of the reserve that haven't been checked. So everywhere we go now, there could be a surprise waiting for us. Got some reports this morning from people watching on the Djuma waterhole camera last night, and they heard a buffalo's alarm calling. Now, Ravi was one of those viewers who sent through the updates and said that the buffalo's bellowing lasted for about a minute, and what could have happened to this buffalo that was bellowing? Maybe it escaped. It's highly unlikely, Ravi, that hyena would have stolen anything from 5 big male lions. You'd need 30 hyena to do that. And in the Sabi Sands, where hyena very infrequently do chase lion, I would say that that is close to impossible. So not likely that it was the hyena. Even if the hyena were successful in killing the buffalo, not the lion, I would assume that the lion would have heard that buffalo in distress and moved into that area and chased the hyena away and stolen their kill. So what I'm guessing is that the buffalo probably was just making a noise, not necessarily bellowing for its life. Or maybe they had it, the rest of the herd regrouped, chased the lion away, and it escaped and ran off with the herd. That's a possible likelihood. Or one final analogy, or one final theory, is that they caught a small buffalo, that they've fed on, licked their lips, cleaned their faces, and it doesn't even look like they've fed on a buffalo, a large one. So yeah, difficult one, Ravi. Difficult to read into sounds of the night. But thank you very much for those updates. And I guess a lot of what goes on here will only ever be known as theories as to what may have happened or what may have caused it to happen. Unless you're there to see something, you can never be entirely sure as to what caused it or what went on. the lioness that was lying with those 5 Birmingham males, Joanne from Arizona, seems to think that she looked quite young because her ears were in perfect condition. She didn't have too many scratches or scars. And you're right, she was in good condition, but I did get a glimpse of one of her nipples, and it looks to me like she has in fact given birth before. So probably a bit older than that, maybe 4 or 5 years of age, but very difficult to be certain. But I would say a little bit older than that, Jan, despite the fact that she does look in great condition. I think that's what may have kind of been a little bit misleading, and had I not seen that little nipple, which looks to have been fed on in the past, I would have agreed with you that she could quite possibly be around age. The other thing to bear in mind is that you're comparing her to massive males, which will make her appear smaller than she actually is. If you see lioness together, or lioness like the Solala lioness with young males, they will possibly look a little bit older, just from the size. What would make our lives a lot easier is if all of the lions had big numbers on their bottoms. You can know exactly who's who, because at the moment it's been doing a lot of guesswork. And if they're all just numbered, it would make our lives easier, but we don't want that. I'm only kidding. Little Franklin letting off 1 or 2 alarms as we drove past there, Crested Franklin, which you would have heard. So we're going to be approaching the dam in the next minute or two, and let's hope that there's something there. And Mike in Florida has just asked for us to keep an eye out for any kingfishers. And Mike, I've got good news. I think we are going to be able to find you a malachite kingfisher, a tiny little kingfisher, incredibly pretty, that I've noticed lurking around Buffelshoek Dam. Interestingly enough, the same thing happened last year. Well, I only arrived this time last year, but I remember a malachite kingfisher or 2 around Buffelshoek Waterhole, whereas in the winter months they appeared to disappear. Not sure where to, but since I got back from leave about 3 days ago, I think, came up here in the evening and saw a malachite kingfisher washing itself in the evening, and I'm guessing it's still going to be here. There's also a chance of seeing pied kingfisher, slightly larger, as well as the giant kingfisher, but we don't get many giant kingfisher out here, not very commonly, so that would be a surprise. So we've got a comment through from Ria, who's acknowledging my mane that I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to compete with the Birmingham males. I know my style is not quite normal. It's almost like a duck's tail, but I'm just going with it for now, and we'll see what my head is doing tomorrow morning. Yeah, my hair's actually getting a bit longer than normal. It's getting a bit wild. So maybe I'm due for a shearing, although Nikki does like me to keep my hair long, so I'm following strict instructions from my girlfriend. Oh wow, we are in for a little treat here.